Today's episode is brought to you by Modern Grower. Modern Grower is the go-to source for 100% organic, GMO-free microgreen seeds. Trusted by hundreds of growers for high quality and low prices. If you're growing microgreens, start saving at shop.moderngrower.co.
Can you talk about the importance of soil macrofauna and maybe even start out saying, define what is macrofauna? Because I think people take macrofauna in the soil for granted and microfauna get all the credit and all kind of the popularity.
Yeah, so the scientific definition of microfauna is animals below 100 microns. 1 micron is 1 millionth of a meter. And for mesofauna, we define organisms between 100 and 100 microns and 2 millimeters. For macrofauna, we can imagine earthworms, for example, or insects. We define animals, soil animals, from 2 millimeters to 20 millimeters. And then we have megafauna, the animals that are visible, the more evident animals that are above 20 millimeters. And in addition, we have another definition, very common to find, is microflora. It is scientifically is quite wrong because it's not a flora, they are not plants, but they are bacteria and fungi. And so we have these 4 components that work all together in the soil. So we can see the soil. We should imagine the soil not from only a productive point of view, but under an holistic vision. So the holistic vision, there are several recent researchers that explore the soil not only from a mineral point of view, but also from a biological point of view. In a soil, there are minerals, there are organic matter, there is organic matter, there are animals, there are bacteria, there are fungi, there are microorganisms, and of course there are also pores filled with water and air. So soil is a living system. It is not something dead. It is not something where organic matter only decomposes, but it is something alive. And if we imagine that 25% of soil of biodiversity is in the soil, 1/4 of biodiversity is in the soil. And most of this biodiversity is not known at all. If we imagine that ants constitute the 10% of the biomass of all animals altogether, we can have an idea of the importance of soil from a biological point of view. Of course, from a scientific point of view, soils can be considered as soils, even if there is no life in them. We talk about soils from Mars, for example, planets, from soils from deserts, where there is no life or there is little life. But in most of the cases, soils are alive. There is a cooperation between microorganisms, plant roots, animals, and so fauna, and that work all together in soil composition. And I had a lesson from a very important for me, in my opinion, Italian pedologist, maybe not very well known, is Giovanni Hausmann. He considered the soil as a placenta. I'm reading now. And what he said, the man who physically and culturally is far from natural environment, from the soil, from agriculture and tradition, can be considered as eradicated, alienated, confused, capable of only damaging himself to others and to the environment. So soil must be seen as a living ecosystem, and all the production 90% of life depends on soil.
The macrofauna in the soil, so that would be worms, ants, beetles. What role are they playing in all of this? Let's start with worms.
The most important, they have several roles, and most of these roles are beneficial from soil. And earthworms, for example, termites, ants, some beetles, can be defined as ecosystem engineers. Why this definition? Because they dig into the soil, they build nests, burrows, and they mix organic matter. So they are like engineers. They change physically and chemically the soil. And so they increase macroporosity. So the soil with macrofauna are usually richer of air, of oxygen. They shred organic matter, leaves, and so residues, and they increase the surface of this organic material. Increasing the surface of this material, microorganisms, so bacteria and fungi, can decompose better this material. And so if they decompose better, more nutrients are released, more nitrogen, more phosphorus, potassium. And so plants can absorb more nutrients. So soil fertility increases. So it's a kind of trophic net where you have the producers that are roots, they're plants, photosynthetic organisms, and then you have the shredders. Macrofauna usually do this, so they cut organic material in smaller pieces, and then you have the decomposers that are mostly microorganisms. So macrofauna has a very important role because macrofauna live in the soil, usually in the top soil, but most of organisms are concentrated in the litter, but some of them can live the deeper soil. So it is the main advantage is the physical changes that macrofauna causes in the soil. And these physical changes in turn can affect chemical fertility and biological fertility of microorganisms. So everything is interconnected, intertwined.
Hello, growers. Looking to turn your homestead into a profitable business? Or are you a farmer looking to boost your sales? Check out my book, Sell Everything You Grow. This book is the ultimate guide to choosing the right farm business model that fits your farm, time, and location. Discover which model has the highest profit margins and why diversification is so important. Whether you're selling apples, vegetables, or microgreens, Sell Everything You Grow will help you find your first market or expand into new ones. Get Sell Everything You Grow on Amazon and start selling more today.